Okay, every team's most valuable role player. This is based off the 2022-23 season. These are my predictions for next year. Before we get into it, I would like to talk about what is a role player. I looked it up because I was kind of curious what Google thought it would be, for basketball at least. And it said someone who can come off the bench and contribute to a team. For this video, though, and my personal definition, I'm picking a role player or a starter that does the little things and contributes in a big way on either offense or defense or both. Anyone but a top 3 player depending on the team. This video will focus on the Western Conference role players, and then in my next video we'll do the East. So let's get right into it. Starting off with the Dallas Mavericks, we have Christian Wood. I was debating between him and Josh Green. I picked Christian Wood because he had more minutes this season, and he's more of a bench bucket. Jason Kidd loves his defense, so he doesn't give Wood the opportunity to thrive, but I think that's a good thing because then maybe in the future we can push him to try and contribute on both ends. Next, we got the Denver Nuggets. I picked Bruce Brown. I think that's a pretty obvious one. He is an all-around player. He contributes offensively, defensively. He's got a very underrated playmaking, especially for a shooting guard, small forward. And this year's playoffs, he was huge for Denver, especially in the finals. He had some big minutes, a huge game, 20-plus point game with some big threes in the fourth quarter, which helped them win that game especially. So he was very important. Next up, we got the Warriors. I'm picking Kevon Looney for this one. He kind of holds this team together on the defensive end, with the help of Draymond, of course. He rebounds the ball very well. He sets screens, lots of screens for Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, whoever's running off those screens. And he's a huge part to this team's motion offense. Next up, we got the Lakers. And I'm picking Austin Reeves. Started the season coming off the bench. And he was a very unexpected player, No one expected him to be this nice. He was a solid bucket all throughout the season. Huge contributor on the offensive end. His defense has something to look forward to. Maybe he won't be a good defender by any means, but I think he can hold his own, especially with his offense, making up for his lack of defense. Next up, we got the Rockets. I picked Kenyon Martin Jr. He's good offensively, 12 points a night, not bad off the bench. And he's solid defensively with his athleticism. And as we all know, he's got massive, massive hops. He jumps out the gym, and that's fun to watch always. Next up, we got the Clippers. I picked Terrence Mann for this one. He's the same as Bruce Brown, all-around player. Fills his role very well, whether that's point guard, shooting guard, small forward, maybe even power forward, whatever position he plays. He's a solid defender, solid shooter. He's a solid dribble drive player when he has the opportunity, because you need your other guys to make moves like that. And he just fills that role very well for the Clippers. I'd be sad to see him move on, but I think they want to keep him. Next, we've got the Memphis Grizzlies. I picked Tyus Jones. He was the best backup point guard in the league last season. Now he's found himself a new home in DC, but I think he'll thrive as their starting point guard in Dallas, and it was only a matter of time before he found a starting role somewhere else. So I think Memphis made the right move, moving on from him. Unfortunate, but it's something they had to do. Next up, we're talking about one of the best backup centers in the league. We got Naz Reid, center/power forward. Huge for the Timberwolves this season, especially when Karl Anthony Towns was sitting out. He's a solid scorer. He can shoot the ball well. He fits well alongside Rudy Gobert, which is why I think if they trade Cat, Naz Reid could step into that starting 4 spot. Only time will tell. He's a good piece for the Wolves. They gave him a pretty good contract just the other day. I'm excited to see him stay there and thrive in his new role. Next, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. We have Trey Murphy III. He's a very solid shooter, very solid defender with his length and athleticism. And then he also has lots of potential considering his size, his offensive ability, his defensive ability. He could be a huge starting role for this Pelicans team, even if they move on from Zion, even if they keep him. I'm sure he could slide in somewhere and fit very well, especially considering we're moving lots and lots towards positionless basketball. He's a really good piece to have. Next up, we got Lu Dort. He was a very solid defender this season, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, always guards the other team's best player, and he's very underrated on offense, I believe. He's not by any means amazing. He averaged like 16, 17 points. The one thing is his shooting efficiency. He shot under 40% from the field for the season, which isn't great, but considering a lot of those are jump shots and occasional dribble drive plays, he doesn't have the greatest offense, but he has solid offense, enough to keep him in that starting role, and a way above average defense, which definitely makes up for his offense. Next up, we got Josh Okogie. I was tempted between him and a few other players, but considering the Kevin Durant trade at the trade deadline, I picked Okogie because he does guard the other team's best defender. He is an above average defender, I would say, and his offense isn't the best, but he's there for the defense, considering he's teammates with Booker, Kevin Durant, at the time Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, right? The other four players were amazing. Now he's got Bradley Beal, so he has less on offense and he can focus even more on defense. Next up, we have the Portland Trail Blazers. I picked Justice Winslow for this one. Solid defender for this team. Plays almost 30 minutes, 26 minutes a night. Solid defense. His offense doesn't stand out by any means, but he's got the shot and he can fill his role very well. Hence, role player. Next, we have the Sacramento Kings. I picked Malik Monk off the bench. Obviously, Malik Monk is just a straight bucket. He fits very well along De'Aaron Fox. They got good chemistry. In the playoffs, we saw that. He had a 45-point game. He had some big games throughout the playoffs, 30-plus points. Even before the playoffs, regular season, he was a bucket for them whenever they needed it, which is huge. He fills that role when it's necessary, and he thrives in it. I think they should keep him off the bench, considering he's not the best defender ever, but he's a good sixth man. He's a good spark plug, That's exactly what they need him for. Next up, we got the San Antonio Spurs. I picked Trey Jones. He is a solid point guard for the Spurs. He's a very smart player. I don't think he'll be the Spurs' long-term point guard. I could be wrong. But he definitely fills that piece for the next coming years until maybe they draft someone or find someone to fit well along the rest of their squad, because they have a solid 2 through 5, I feel, already planned out for their future. Trey Jones could definitely stay, maybe be their backup point guard, but I feel they might look for someone else to fill that starting role. But he does fit that spot very well at the moment. And last but not least, we have the Utah Jazz. I picked Kelly Olynyk for this one. He would start some games, bench some other games, but he was very huge for this team spacing-wise. He could shoot the ball very well. He could also score on the inside occasionally, whether he was the 5 or the 4, doesn't matter. He fit well alongside Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. And he also was a solid rebounder for the team. He averaged about 10 rebounds a game, I'm pretty sure. Almost a double-double. And he could give him a double-double on a nightly basis, and he was just huge for this team on both ends. And now that they've traded for John Collins, I see Kelly Olynyk's role dropping. Or maybe they try and move on from him. Danny Ainge, I'm sure, has some plans to trade him somewhere. Someone will want Kelly Olynyk. Maybe back to Miami Heat. I honestly would not mind as a Miami fan, but I'm not making the moves. But that would be pretty interesting to see. But I'm sure he will find a new home soon after his career season. Could be interesting to see where he goes. All right. Those are all my most valuable role players for the West. If you disagree with any, please comment down below what you think. And stay tuned for the Eastern Conference next week.